In a small rural town during the late 19th century, life moved at a slow, steady pace. The fields stretched wide under the sun, giving farmers hopes of bountiful harvests. However, for many, including Will, a widower living on the outskirts, the reality was often harsh. A gentle wind rustled through the tall grasses, whispering stories of isolation and hard work. Will's farm stood proud but lonely. The sod house was sturdy but lacked warmth without the laughter of family. It had been months since he lost his beloved wife to an illness that swept through their community like a shadow. Now, as he looked around at the empty rooms and listened to the silence that filled his home, he felt a deep ache in his heart. Each day was a battle against loneliness and despair. The pantry sat bare, reflecting not just his lack of food, but also his dwindling hope for joy. The townsfolk were friendly enough, but often too busy with their own struggles to notice his plight. They tended to their crops and livestock while exchanging gossip about those who stood out or didn't quite fit in. Will heard whispers about Violet, the woman left at the rail depot. The talk focused on her generous figure rather than her kind spirit or laughter that could brighten even the darkest day. As he walked through town to gather supplies one afternoon, Will couldn't help but notice how isolated everyone seemed. Folks hurried past each other without sharing more than a polite nod or quick greeting. The weight of unfulfilled dreams hung heavy in the air, much like the dark clouds looming overhead. Despite these challenges, there was an undeniable beauty in the land around him, rolling hills kissed by golden sunsets and fields that promised life if only nurtured with care. Yet for Will, it felt as if something vital was missing from this picturesque scene: companionship and love. On that fateful day when Will first spotted Violet at the depot, a scene filled with bustling travelers and departing trains, he sensed something extraordinary about her amidst all the chatter and judgment surrounding her. While others might focus solely on her size, Will noticed her bright eyes and infectious laughter that defied the gloominess of life as they knew it. In that moment of connection beneath a sky painted with hues of orange and pink, Will made a decision that would change both their lives forever. It was a choice born not out of desperation alone, but from an instinctive recognition that perhaps together they could overcome their individual struggles and create something beautiful against all odds. And so began an unexpected journey, a union forged not merely from circumstance but from hope, blooming in an unlikely place where laughter could soon replace silence in Will's sod house once again. As the sun slipped behind the horizon, casting shadows over Will's sod house, an air of emptiness hung thick in the room. It had been a long, cold winter since he lost his wife to an illness that felt like it swept away more than just her life. It stole the warmth from his home and the color from his days. Now, as he sat alone at the wooden table, he could see the bare walls surrounding him, echoing moments of laughter and love that might never return. The pantry door creaked when he opened it, much like his heart when he thought of all they had shared. Inside, it was nearly empty, save for a few cans, collected dust, and some stale bread that reminded him of how things used to be. He longed for nourishment, not just of body but of spirit. Meals once filled with joy were now replaced with silence, and cooking felt like a distant memory. He would stare at the empty shelves and feel despair wash over him like rain on parched earth. Each day blended into the next as loneliness enveloped him. The once vibrant farm now felt more like a burden than a blessing. While others in town were busy tending to their families and crops, Will buried himself in work, plowing fields and repairing fences, but each task brought back memories of his wife's gentle smile or her encouraging words that motivated him through tough times. The fields were full of potential, but without someone to share their bounty with, they lost their meaning. Strolling through town was no escape. People hurried about their business, focused on their own struggles, leaving Will feeling even more isolated in the crowd. The whispers about Violet reached his ears often enough to make him curious. She seemed to attract both judgment and admiration. That lingering thought nagged at him as he worked. What would it be like to have someone at his side again? He would often find himself daydreaming about companionship during those quiet nights alone. Would there ever be another voice filling the space around him? As he gazed out over his fields under a moonlit sky, he realized how much he missed sharing simple moments, a laugh over dinner, the warmth of a hand brushing against his. The hope for change flickered within him like a dim candle flame, waiting for a breeze to strengthen its light. Maybe there was still time for joy in his life. Perhaps if he were open to unexpected encounters like meeting Violet at the depot that day, something beautiful could unfold amidst all this darkness. Ultimately, longing swirled deep within him, a whisper carried by the wind through the tall grasses, urging him towards connection and love once more. Little did he know that fate was working its magic just around the corner. Violet stood alone at the rail depot, her vibrant red dress swaying gently in the breeze. She was a sight to behold, though many in town only saw her generous figure rather than the warmth she radiated. Despite being labeled too plump by whispers that floated through the streets like dandelion seeds, Violet possessed an infectious cheerfulness that drew people in if they paused long enough to see beyond her appearance. As she waited for a train that would never come, her laughter filled the air, ringing like music among the clatter of luggage and chatter of other travelers. With a bright smile and sparkling eyes, she chatted with anyone who would listen, sharing stories and jokes that made even the grumpiest passengers crack a smile. She was the kind of person who could turn an ordinary moment into something special, simply by being herself. Yet, as much as she tried to embrace life with joy, Violet felt the sting of judgment from others. The townsfolk's gossip stung like a swarm of bees whenever she heard their whispers. They focused on her size, making cruel comments that pierced her heart. But she refused to let those opinions dim her spirit. Instead, Violet filled her days with laughter and kindness, believing that what truly mattered lay beyond looks. In her mind, love and acceptance were meant for those who dared to look deeper. She had always dreamed of finding someone who appreciated her for more than just her appearance, someone who could see her cheerful soul and enjoy life alongside her. However, as she stood there at the depot waiting endlessly for a future that seemed uncertain, doubt began to creep in. Her own thoughts wandered back to how her family had raised her. They taught her to embrace every part of herself and cherish life's little joys, like baking pies with fresh fruit from their garden or dancing in the kitchen while preparing meals. Those memories filled her heart with warmth even as loneliness threatened to take hold. But then came a flicker of hope when she noticed Will across the way. His weathered face showed signs of weariness similar to hers, a shared understanding of loss that connected them in an instant. As he approached, curiosity flashed in his eyes instead of judgment. In that brief moment, Violet sensed something different about him. It was as if they both recognized their own struggles and yearned for connection. "Hello there," she called out cheerfully, determined not to let fear overshadow this chance encounter. "Seems like we both got left behind." Will met her gaze and smiled softly, a genuine response that lifted some of the weight from Violet's heart. Perhaps this was a meeting meant to happen after all. Under layers of laughter and shared experiences were two souls ready to discover if companionship could blossom amidst their challenges. In this unlikeliest of places, at the rail depot, a spark ignited between them, a glimmering possibility that would soon change everything for both Will and Violet. As the sun began its slow descent towards the horizon, casting a warm golden light over the depot, Will stood frozen in place, his heart racing. The chatter around him faded into the background as he locked eyes with Violet, their shared laughter hanging between them like a bridge to possibility. For a moment, it felt as if time itself had paused. Her spirited laughter danced on the breeze, igniting an emotion he thought had long since dimmed. Will felt an undeniable connection to her in that instant, something deeper than mere attraction. They both carried scars from their pasts. He could see it in the way she smiled through uncertainty and how her eyes sparkled with hope despite the judgments of others. It was a reflection of his own longing for understanding and companionship, a yearning he'd buried beneath layers of grief for too long. The sound of the train whistle pierced the air like a siren call, urging travelers to make their final decisions before departure. Will's thoughts raced. Here was a woman who embodied joy even when faced with adversity, a rare find in a world filled with cold judgment. Would she be willing to take a chance on him? More importantly, could he summon the courage to offer her something more than just fleeting recognition? Before reason could catch up with his heart, Will took a deep breath and stepped forward, determination coursing through him. "Violet," he called out, his voice steady yet tinged with urgency. When she turned to face him, he knew this was no ordinary moment. "I know this may sound crazy. I feel like we've only just met," but his heart thundered as he continued. "Would you marry me?" The words hung heavy in the air between them, bold and unexpected yet clarifying all at once. Silence followed briefly as Violet blinked in surprise. Her cheeks flushed with emotion while her initial shock transformed into unreadable joy mingled with disbelief. "Are you serious?" she finally managed to ask, her voice rising above the distant rumble of an approaching train. Will nodded earnestly, realizing that it wasn't just about survival anymore, it was about embracing life again together. "I don't want you to be alone," he said earnestly, feeling raw honesty spill from his heart. "Neither do I." With that affirmation lingering in the air like a promise waiting to be fulfilled, Violet's radiant smile returned full force. "Yes. Yes," she exclaimed, laughter bubbling forth as joyful tears glimmered in her eyes. Before they could overthink what they had decided in a flash of impulse, Will reached for her hand and led her towards the conductor standing nearby, their life together ready to begin as so many journeys often do, impulsively and full of hope. As they exchanged vows right there at the depot amid curious onlookers, which they both later realized would amount to nothing more than gossip, Will felt a breath of fresh air fill his spirit for the first time since losing his wife. From that moment forward, they stepped forward together into an uncertain future filled with limitless potential. Two hearts forged by circumstance but destined for joy amid life's unpredictable turns. As the sounds of the departing train began to fade, Will and Violet stood together at the rail depot, the world around them bustling with curious onlookers. The platform, dusty and warm, transformed into an impromptu chapel as they faced one another, hearts racing with both excitement and uncertainty. Will could hardly believe what had just transpired. Here was Violet, a woman who had quickly stolen his heart, and now they were about to embark on an uncharted journey together. Violet's laughter rang out like music, breaking the tension as she fidgeted nervously with her vibrant red dress. Well, this is quite different from what I imagined my wedding day would be, she joked, her eyes sparkling with mischief as she glanced around at the assembled crowd. Her playful nature brought smiles all around, dispelling any awkwardness that lingered in the air. Who needs a fancy ceremony? Will replied with a chuckle, feeling a warmth spread through him as hope pulsed between them like an electric current. We have everything we need right here. His sincerity infused their moment with a gravity both thrilling and comforting. With a few friendly townsfolk stepping forward, they became accidental witnesses in this spontaneous union. A kind butcher smilingly offered to stand in as best man, while an older lady with twinkling eyes took her place as a witness. The crowd gathered quietly, many whispering words of encouragement as Will and Violet linked their hands together, feeling not only nervousness but also the thrill of newfound love. As they exchanged vows without the prompting of an ordained officiant, they drew from their hearts. Their promises were simple yet poignant. Will looked deep into Violet's eyes and spoke earnestly about companionship, sharing life's burdens together while lifting each other's spirits. I vow to bring laughter back into our home, he declared, his voice steady and filled with emotion. And I promise to fill your kitchen with love and hearty meals. Violet exclaimed happily, her laughter infectious as it mingled with tears of joy. It felt right, their vows were tinged with humor yet rooted in truth, perfectly reflecting who they were. The townsfolk clapped and cheered when they finally sealed the vows with a kiss, one that was sweet yet laced with excitement for the road ahead. For a moment, the noise of the world faded away. It was just Will and Violet wrapped in each other's arms under the open sky. As they pulled apart, laughter still echoed in the air. Their unconventional wedding ceremony symbolized hope for new beginnings and brighter days ahead. Uncertainty loomed over them like clouds in the sky, but they knew that whatever storm lay ahead could be weathered together. With their hands still clasped, they started walking away from the depot, two souls intertwined by fate and ready to embrace whatever adventures awaited them beyond that bustling platform. The simplicity of their wedding became a cherished memory. It marked not just their commitment to each other but also a fresh start filled with possibilities yet to unfold. As the sun rose brightly over Will's farm in the days that followed their wedding, a sense of hope permeated the air. The sod house, which had once felt so hollow and dim, now pulsed with an unmistakable energy that came from Violet's presence. Her laughter rang out like melodious chimes, filling corners that had long held silence. It was as though every giggle broke open the seams of the home, allowing light and warmth to seep in. Violet took to her new role with enthusiasm and grace, bringing her spirit into every nook and cranny. She filled their modest kitchen with delightful aromas as she cooked hearty meals that made use of whatever ingredients they could gather from the pantry and the land. Whether it was a simple stew or freshly baked bread, she infused each dish with love, reminding Will of moments spent with his wife but blooming with a vibrant new flavor. "Try this one," Violet called merrily one afternoon, pulling a steaming pot off the stove. She carefully ladled soup into bowls and set them on the worn wooden table between them. "I promise it's even better than yesterday's." Will sat at the table, watching her bustle about with genuine awe. The sight of her warm smile as she poured their meal felt like a balm for his weary heart. "You could make even plain water taste like a feast," he teased lightly, unable to hide his admiration. They shared meals filled with stories and laughter, breaking bread side by side as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Each hearty serving warmed their bodies while conversation sparked excitement in their hearts. Will listened intently as Violet recounted her dreams and adventures from years past, tales filled with imagination and color that painted vivid images in his mind. Later in the evening, as darkness cloaked the farm in gentle shadows, Will found himself often gazing at Violet while she engaged him with her expressive gestures and animated narratives. Her joy spun a web around them both, an invisible tether that forged an unbreakable bond built on trust and camaraderie. With each passing day, Violet breathed life into what had once felt like a barren existence for Will. Chores became shared adventures, plowing fields transformed into spontaneous races under wide-open skies, even quiet evenings shifted into cozy storytelling sessions beside the hearth where fires crackled lazily. Laughter filled every room they encountered together, its echo reverberating through walls now alive with renewed purpose. The simple act of tending to their chores no longer seemed daunting, rather it became a partnership defined by joy as they learned how to navigate life together. As spring turned into summer outside their sod house, flowers began to bloom around their home, a symbol of transformation mirrored in both their lives. Where there had been only grief before sprouted hope intertwined with love, their unconventional union blossoming as they continued to create cherished memories within those walls. It was there, buoyed by laughter and warmth, that Will found solace and Violet discovered belonging, an unexpected yet perfect harmony forged in renewal amongst life's profound uncertainties. With each passing week, Violet's cooking became the heart of their home, breathing new life into Will's once empty pantry. What had previously held only a few dusty cans now overflowed with fresh ingredients, brought in by Violet's vibrant energy and resourcefulness. She would spend hours exploring the farm, teaching herself about herbs and vegetables that could thrive in their environment. Each morning, she explored the garden beds, foraging for whatever was ripe and ready to be plucked. One bright day, as the sun streamed through the windows, Violet stood at the kitchen counter, her apron dusted with flour. She hummed a cheerful tune while kneading dough, a blend of bread, potatoes, and herbs that teased Will's senses and filled his heart with anticipation. "This will be special," she called over her shoulder. "What are you making today?" Will asked from his spot leaning against the doorframe, mesmerized by her lively spirit. "Potato and herb dumplings," she replied with a sparkle in her eye. "They'll go perfectly with the fresh stew I have cooking on the stove." Will marveled at how Violet had turned simple ingredients into meals filled with flavor and comfort. She routinely infused everything she created with love, drawing on memories of her own past while incorporating local recipes she learned from neighbors. Their mealtimes quickly turned from mere rituals into delightful culinary adventures. As their kitchen flourished, so did Will's farm. The more he saw how Violet tended their meals with care, the more motivated he felt to work on his fields. Inspired by her zest for life, he began to invest extra attention into his crops. He tried different planting techniques gleaned from Violet's knowledge of cooking. Her understanding of flavors helped him think of fresh produce as potential dishes rather than just harvesting crops. One afternoon, after a long day in the fields, Will returned home to find Violet preparing a feast using vegetables they had gathered together. "Look at these beauties!" she exclaimed, holding up a handful of colorful peppers and ripe tomatoes. "These will lead to our best harvest yet." Her unwavering belief in what they could achieve ignited a fire within him. He joined her in the kitchen as they cut and chopped together, laughter weaving their hearts closer with each playful jab and shared secret. As the months passed and seasons changed, their efforts reaped rewards not just in their pantry but out in the fields as well. Soon enough, crops that seemed sparse began to flourish under Will's diligent care and Violet's enthusiasm, inspired by nature's bounty. Neighbors started noticing the transformation on Will's farm. Its once barren landscape grew radiant with colors that signaled a promising harvest season ahead. Whispers circulated through town about this remarkable couple who had turned despair into abundance through love and laughter. With every shared meal around the table filled with wholesome food and warmth, they celebrated not just their victories but also the lessons learned along the way. Together they cultivated not only vegetables and grains but also a profound sense of hope that blossomed amidst challenges, a testament to how Violet's cooking skills had opened doors to abundance and joy in both their lives. As the seasons passed, the partnership between Will and Violet continued to blossom. They grew not only as individuals but as a couple deeply intertwined in their daily lives. With every shared task, they began to understand the importance of supporting one another, nurturing both their emotional and physical well-being. In early autumn, one crisp morning, Will was out in the fields, unearthing potatoes and carrots, when he noticed Violet standing at the edge of the garden, hands on her hips, a concerned look on her face. She had been feeling under the weather lately, yet she insisted on helping with the harvest. Will walked over to her, concern etched across his brow. "You need to rest today," he said firmly. "I can handle this. You've done enough in the kitchen this week." Violet's eyes softened at his words. "But I want to contribute. I feel like I should be out here with you," she protested lightly, though he could see the fatigue in her posture. "Let me take care of this," he urged gently, sensing her desire to be involved but knowing her health was more important. He took her by the shoulders and looked straight into her eyes. "You filled our home with warmth and love. You've done more than enough for me." His sincerity washed over Violet like a comforting blanket. She nodded, letting out a small sigh of relief as she stepped back. "All right, I'll go inside and make us something warm," she finally agreed, her smile returning. Watching Violet retreat into the kitchen brought Will a sense of satisfaction. He realized that taking charge of certain tasks allowed him to show his love for her in a different way, by making sure she felt valued and cared for. In that moment, he understood that support in a relationship wasn't just about sharing chores. It was also about recognizing when to step up and when to step back. As winter settled over the land, their bond deepened even further. The long evenings were spent huddled close together by the fireplace, sharing stories and dreams for the future. They took turns reading aloud from books they borrowed from neighbors, turning each evening into a cozy escape filled with laughter and imagination. One night, as snowflakes danced outside their window, Violet shared her dream of starting a small garden to grow herbs and vegetables year-round. "Imagine stepping outside for fresh basil or parsley whenever we want. We could make our meals even better," she said excitedly. Will listened intently, envisioning the possibilities. "What if we used some of the old wooden crates to build raised beds? We could add a greenhouse too." His excitement matched hers as they began sketching plans together, each idea fueling their enthusiasm. The support they provided each other extended beyond chores and dreams. It wrapped around their hearts like a warm embrace. They learned to celebrate victories together and comfort each other during challenging times. Each setback only served to strengthen their partnership as they faced life's uncertainties hand in hand. As spring approached, Will found himself reflecting on how much had changed since Violet had entered his life. Together they had built not just a home but also a partnership founded on mutual respect and love, a beautiful testament to how two souls once lost could find strength in each other amidst life's unpredictable journey. Their evolving relationship was a dance of support, laughter, and shared dreams, an intricate tapestry woven together through every season they faced. As Will and Violet settled into their new life together, the whispers and gossip from the townsfolk began to shift. Initially, many had been quick to judge Violet based solely on her appearance, focusing on her generous figure rather than her joyful spirit. They whispered doubts about Will's decision to marry her so impulsively, questioning how a man like him could choose a woman who didn't fit their narrow ideals of beauty. But as the weeks turned into months, they started to witness the transformation unfolding within Will's farmhouse. The once somber atmosphere was replaced by laughter. One afternoon, a group of women wandered over for a casual visit. They were met with an inviting kitchen filled with freshly baked bread and hearty stew simmering on the stove. "Come in. I've made too much for just us," Violet called cheerfully, her eyes sparkling with kindness as she offered them bowls filled to the brim. The women hesitated at first, unsure of what to expect, but soon found themselves drawn into the warmth of her home. As they sat around the table sharing stories and tasting Violet's cooking, their initial judgments began to dissolve like sugar in tea. Her laughter was contagious, and they found themselves enjoying her company more than they ever expected. Word spread quickly about Violet's culinary talents and her ability to bring people together. The gossip shifted from criticism to admiration. It was clear that she was not only filling Will's home with love but also enriching the community around them. The townsfolk began praising her abilities at gatherings. Her hearty meals became a staple at potlucks and community events. Even Will noticed how their farm began to flourish under this newfound energy. With each passing season, their efforts bore fruit literally and figuratively. The garden overflowed with vegetables that were bountiful thanks to both of their hard work, leading to better harvests than he had ever seen before. As Violet became more integrated into community life, so did Will. Together, they hosted gatherings that filled their home with neighbors sharing laughter and stories over delicious food. The couple became known for their generosity. Everyone who visited left feeling uplifted and nourished. Eventually, the townsfolk no longer saw Violet as just the plump bride. Instead, she became a beloved member of the community, someone whose joy had transformed not only Will's life but also the lives of those around them. As they witnessed this change firsthand, the gossip faded into memories of what once was, replaced by heartfelt appreciation for the couple who had turned their home into a beacon of hope and warmth for all. Through kindness and resilience, Violet shattered preconceived notions while fostering genuine connections within their small town, a testament to how love can transcend judgment and bring forth understanding in unexpected ways. As spring blossomed into summer, Will and Violet's farm thrived like never before, a true testament to the love and hard work they had poured into it. Vibrant flowers adorned the garden, and the fields were a patchwork of green and gold, bursting with vegetables that promised an abundant harvest. The once dreary sod house now stood as a beacon of warmth and happiness, filled with laughter and the delicious scents of Violet's hearty meals wafting through open windows. Neighbors gathered regularly at their home, drawn by the vibrant energy that radiated from the couple. Will had transformed not just his farm but also his spirit, finding joy in the rhythm of hard work alongside Violet. She had become his partner in every sense, cooking together, tending to the animals, and planning for the future with dreams that seemed to grow as bountifully as their crops. One sunny afternoon, as they worked side by side in the garden, Will paused to watch Violet kneeling in the soil. Her hands were caked with earth, her face lit up with pure delight as she gently pulled weeds from around budding plants. It was moments like this that made him realize just how much had changed in his life since she had come into it. "Look at these tomatoes," she exclaimed, holding up a ripe fruit with pride. "They'll be perfect for our next meal." Will chuckled and wiped sweat from his brow. "I think we'll have enough to feed half the town at this rate." Violet laughed along with him, her joy infectious. "And I wouldn't have it any other way. Let's make sure we share our bounty." Their commitment to sharing their harvest symbolized their generous spirits. What they had built together extended beyond their home and into the community. Will began hosting gatherings where friends could enjoy freshly prepared meals featuring ingredients straight from their farm. These evenings became cherished events where stories were shared over steaming plates of food, laughter echoed against the walls, and friendships flourished. As summer wore on, whispers of admiration for Violet shifted throughout town. She was no longer just the plump bride. Instead, she became known for her incredible hospitality and cooking skills that brought people together. Will took pride not only in their thriving crops but also in how Violet had nurtured relationships within their community. In quiet moments at dusk when the stars began twinkling above them, he would often find himself reflecting on how unexpected love had transformed his life so dramatically. He remembered standing alone at that rail depot, a lonely widower lost in grief, and how fate had introduced him to Violet on that fateful day. Now, as they strolled hand in hand through their fields or sat together beneath a sprawling oak tree watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and pink, he understood that love could indeed bloom unexpectedly. It changed lives for the better in ways he never imagined possible, filling homes with warmth where there once was silence and creating joy amid life's simplest moments. Together, Will and Violet forged not only a thriving farm but a beautiful life. An inspiring reminder that love can grow strong even amidst challenges and transform both hearts and homes into something truly extraordinary. Their journey was one of hope, a story woven together through shared dreams and unwavering support, a legacy of resilience grounded firmly in love's embrace.